Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's Vin PF. On today's episode, we've got a sample Saturday with a slight difference. Usually, when I do these things, I've got a lineup of like a range or whatever. You know, could be anything from one to quite a lot of drams. But today, I think probably for the first time, I'm doing a sample Saturday with just one whiskey, and that's because the guys at the Whisky World got in touch with me and said, would I like to try their new exclusive release up in sample form? And I said absolutely yes, of course. You know, I always love to try samples and whatnot, but I obviously typically don't do reviews of sample sizes, so I'm bringing it to you as a sample Saturday with my usual slightly less professional, unedited vibe, unless I make some serious mistakes, which I probably already have. So yeah, we'll run through this whiskey and see what we got. I poured this out a little while ago because I think it deserves it at a grand old age of 17 years. What we've got on the table then today is a GlenAllachie 2006 17-year-old, and they're calling it the Oloroso Sherry. This is a Whisky World exclusive to them. It's not cheap. It's 185 quid, which is, you know, not a small amount of money. I'll grant you that. But what we are talking about is a cask strength single cask GlenAllachie that's been exceptionally well aged in some interesting cask types. So yeah, probably worth it for kind of collectors and whatnot, I guess, and that's might be where this is aimed at, but I'm going to drink it today, so we'll get into it. Now, as I said, it's a single cask, which is obviously incredible. 645 bottles of this available, so, you know, there's a fair amount in there. Now, interestingly, this has been, I mean, you can't call it finished, right? Because, so this started its life in a bourbon cask, so it's 5 years in a ex-bourbon cask. Don't know if that's kind of first fill, looking at the website behind me as I do on these things. Just says life in bourbon cask. Then it was moved to an Oloroso puncheon for 12 years. So technically it's Oloroso finished, but for 12 years, man, that's basically aged, right? So it had a little bit of time chilling in a bourbon cask, then some Oloroso, 17 years total, 59%, which is cask strength in this case. Anything else I can tell you about it? Not really. Exclusively available at the Whisky World, of course. Links in the description below, non-affiliate links, of course. Thanks for them sending me this sample, because I don't think I'd have been able to get this otherwise. Natural colour, non-chill filtered. Look at that. I mean, that's just insane. It's not quite like, you know, opaque or anything, but colour is a funny one in whiskey, isn't it? Because we obviously darker looks good. Isn't always indicative of quality, especially when added colour is in there. But when you know that it's no added colour and you've still got this amazing, I don't even know what you'd call that. I mean, I always go for things like mahogany, but it's almost like it's more than that. It's almost like a treacle. Okay, let's get onto the nose then and see what we got. Okay, the first thing I will say is, for me, as a drinker of high ABV whiskey, the high ABV that I know is here isn't making itself known on the nose that much, which is good. You know, we like that sort of thing. The last thing I want to do is get my snars right in here and be punched in the face by ABV, and that's just not happening here. It's what I am getting is all of the sweetness from the Oloroso. For me, I could go into like long swaths of tasting notes that basically build up to the whole, which is this smells like dark forest gatto. You know, it's the cherries, it's the chocolate, it's the cream, all of that mixed together. It's dark forest gatto. It's just, I could just get lost in that nose forever. I mean, albeit a very boozy dark forest gatto, and yet still. Let's get onto the palate then and see what we got. Okay, so yeah, the ABV is making itself known. However, it's kind of chill. It isn't like, sometimes when you get high ABV, it's like the brass section, right? It's loud. It's doing its job, but it can overtake some other stuff. But that's not happening here. The 17 years have been kind to it. In fact, to keep it up that high is still pretty good after that many years. So it's nicely intermingled with the rest of the flavours. Now, talking a little bit about dark forest gatto. Obviously that's coming through in spades here. You know, we're talking about those cherries, those chocolates and whatnot. What's awesome about this is that on the back end, I mean, I'm getting this very specific memory note of fresh, wet tobacco. When I was in the Dominican Republic years and years ago, I did a cigar rolling masterclass, which I thought we were going to get to roll cigars, but actually what it turned out to be was just a guy rolling wet leaves on his leg and just giving them out to people at the restaurant, at the resort that I was at, which was fine. I was really surprised because it was so humid over there. I was really surprised how wet these things were. But that fresh, wet tobacco, I say wet, I'm not talking about like, you know, it's like a little bit damp, but it's a very different vibe from that dried, acrid, burning tobacco that you get in like cigarette smoke, for instance. It's one of those ones where you have to experience it to know what I mean. But that's what I'm getting on the taste of this, not the smell necessarily, the taste. The finish is pretty damn sweet. It's long, all of that Oloroso coming through, but not in a bad way. You know me, I'm not a huge fan of Oloroso, but this is it's much sweeter than I'm used to with Oloroso, that's for sure. And there's not even a whiff of sulphur in this, not even a tiniest little hint of it. What I am getting on the finish though, it's really interesting. I often talk about peppery spiciness, and there's a very distinct difference between cracked black pepper and like powdered white pepper. Not getting either of those. What I am getting is a very, very fine chili flake, tingly sensation on it, which I'm finding quite fascinating, actually. I mean, look, it's GlenAllachie. It's obviously quality. Getting my dates, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure this was distilled before Billy, but was definitely bottled under his watchful eye, as they say. Okay, so very interesting dram. Obviously, I'm only trying to. I mean, you can see I've only had a little wee nip out of this. I'll probably gift that around to a few people as well, so they can try it. 185 quid is a lot of money, folks. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's you know, if it's good value or not, to be honest, because I think this is going to be one of those ones where you'd have made your decision before you even heard my words on this. You'd have seen GlenAllachie, you'd have seen 2006, you'd have seen 17 years, you'd have seen 185 quid, and you'd have gone, I'm buying that, or you'd have gone, probably not going to buy it. But that's not the point of Sample Saturday videos, really. My normal reviews tend to cover like value and things like that, but I don't really want to go into that in Sample Saturdays because I don't know. I'm not experiencing the bottle enough to be able to say, is it worth that money going down? On a personal level, I definitely can't afford that, but that's besides the point. There's a lot of people out there that can afford it, and I'm sure. You know, I've tried a lot of the Whisky World guys' whiskey now, and they know what they're doing. They know how to pick good whiskey, so I'm sure they know what they're doing with their prices as well. And hopefully this will go. But yeah, let me know if this is of interest to you. If you're going to be having a look at this, I think it's an absolutely stunning whiskey, and more power to you if you get it. But I'll say cheers to you, and I'll see you again on more videos coming soon.